A few weeks ago, everyone thought he was finished. A driver in crisis, humiliated by his own teammate with his title dream now in pieces. And then, in a matter of seconds, George Russell silenced the entire world. He pulled off a stunning pole position against all odds. And while he rose from his ashes, another king collapsed right in his own home. Max Verstappen, the master of Zandvoort, sank on the most important day of all, his final farewell at home. Stop for a moment because what just happened on track has flipped every prediction upside down. On one side, a man everyone had written off who rose up at the perfect moment. On the other, a champion hailed as unbeatable at home who instead sank in front of his own people. A day of pure madness where the favorites fell and the doomed triumphed. Before we continue, do me a quick favor. Subscribe to the channel and write a single word in the comments, rebirth or collapse, so I know which way your heart leans. Now let me tell you everything, lap by lap. Let's go in order, because Russell's story is one of true resurrection. In recent weeks, his name was synonymous with crisis. His young teammate was humiliating him race after race. Experts said his title hopes were now over. And there were even those talking about an increasingly uncertain future for him. He looked like a driver with his back against the wall. A man who had lost his light. And pay attention, because his fall had been slow and cruel. Race after race, the same scene. Russell getting out of the car and trying to explain why he was slower than his young teammate. A mechanical issue here, a wrong strategy there, a track that didn't suit his style. Excuse after excuse, while meanwhile the kid next to him was flying at the top of the championship. For a veteran who had waited years for his moment, who had fought to become the team's spearhead, it was a humiliation hard to bear. Many inside the paddock had already started to see him as a man of the past. And instead, right when everything seemed lost, he decided to rewrite history. And then came Zandvoort. Formula One returned to the track after the summer break, and no one expected what was about to happen. In the sprint qualifying, that short and fierce battle where every thousandth of a second counts, Russell pulled out the lap of his life. A perfect lap. Aggressive, flawless. And when the clock stopped, his name was at the top of everyone. Pole position, ahead of everyone. But the most incredible thing is how close it all was, because that session was one of the most contested of the season. The top four drivers packed into less than a tenth of a second. A handkerchief's width, Russell beat Lando Norris by just 4 hundredths. A whisper. Behind them, the Ferraris and McLarens were battling for every fraction of a second. And in the middle of that chaos of phenomena, it was he, the man given up for dead, who put everyone in line. Stop and think about what this means for him. After weeks of criticism, of doubts, of people who had already written him off, Russell got in the car and answered in the strongest way possible. Not with words, with facts, with the clock. He silenced everyone who had declared him dead. And that's why this pole is worth much more than a simple lead at the start. It's a statement. It's a man shouting to the world, "I am still here." But while on one side a rebirth was being celebrated, on the other a small drama was unfolding. And here the story becomes painful. Because the day's big loser has a name nobody expected to find so low. Max Verstappen. And if you too feel how incredible this reversal is, drop a like right now and share it. Because what I'm about to tell you about Verstappen's weekend makes everything even more shocking. Because you need to understand what Zandvoort means to Max. This is his home. His kingdom. The place where he has triumphed multiple times in front of a wall of fans dressed in orange amid a deafening roar. And it's also, and this makes it all the more emotional, his last home race, because this historic circuit is about to disappear from the calendar. Everyone expected a fairy tale weekend, one last dominance, one last embrace with his people. Instead, a slap came. In sprint qualifying, Verstappen placed only 6th. 6th, over half a second off pole, a massive gap in Formula One where usually the frontrunners fight for mere hundredths. And the hardest thing for his fans to digest is who beat him, because ahead of him wasn't just Russell. There was also young Antonelli, the Mercedes phenomenon, who had even made a mistake and ended up on the gravel. Despite that error, the kid still managed to start ahead of the 4-time world champion. Stop and let this image sink in. The king of Zandvoort on his final home appearance, beaten on the grid by a kid who had even ended up in the gravel. If this isn't the symbol of an era fading out, then I really don't know what is. The orange crowd, ready to celebrate him, had to swallow a bitter pill. Their hero, so far off, so struggling, on the very day they wanted to see him shine. And to understand how much this hurts, you have to remember what Verstappen was on this track. Here he never lost. Here he was the absolute master, the man who turned every lap into a national celebration. 3 home triumphs, one after another, with the stands exploding with joy at every pass. Orange smoke filling the sky, chants drowning out the roar of the engines. Zandvoort had become synonymous with his name. And now, in that very same temple, in his final act, he finds himself chasing, fighting for scraps, while others pass him by. The contrast between yesterday's Verstappen and today's is so brutal, it leaves you speechless. That's why this isn't qualifying like any other. It's the end of something. And here comes the poisonous question, the one nobody wants to ask out loud. Is this 6th place just a one-off bad day? Or is it the definitive confirmation that Verstappen's car is no longer competitive, and that his time as a dominator is now over? Because the numbers don't lie. An entire season without wins, a 6th place at home, a huge gap from the best. I'm not selling you certainties. But when the clues pile up like this, it becomes hard to keep calling it bad luck. And the story doesn't end here, because on this day of madness, there's another big name fallen from grace. Lewis Hamilton. The 7-time world champion, with his newly upgraded Ferrari, which was supposed to finally launch the challenge, placed only 7th. And the most embarrassing detail is that he ended up over 6/10ths behind his teammate, Charles Leclerc. An abyss. The same car, 2 different worlds. Another champion who, just like Verstappen, lived through a day to forget. And now connect the dots. On one side, the old lions, Verstappen and Hamilton, sinking. On the other, a resurrected Russell and a young Antonelli who, despite the mistake, stays up there. This may look to you like a simple qualifying session. To me, it looks like the snapshot of a changing of the guard. Yesterday's kings wavering, and today's protagonist taking command. A scenario that until recently would have seemed unthinkable. And think about what all this means for the race. Because qualifying is one thing, the real race is another. Russell starts ahead, but he'll have a pack of hungry wolves behind him. The McLarens and Ferraris ready for anything. Antonelli, 5th, will try to fight back to defend his championship. And Verstappen, the wounded old king. Because watch out, an angry Verstappen with his back against the wall in front of his people is the most dangerous thing that exists in Formula 1. If there's a man capable of turning a humiliation into a legendary comeback, it's him. Now though, the floor is yours, and I really want to know. Do you think Russell's pole is proof that he's back to stay, or just an isolated flash in the dark? And Verstappen, in his final home race, will he manage to pull off a miracle from 6th place? Or will we see him bid farewell to his people without the glory he dreamed of? Write it in the comments. I want to read every one of your predictions, no filters. And before we say goodbye, one last thought. If you think this day is the signal of a new era in Formula 1, hit the bell and stay with us, because we'll bring you every single moment of this legendary weekend. There's only one truth. In a matter of minutes, we saw a man given up for dead rise again, and a king considered eternal waver at home. The old order is trembling, and the question left hanging in the air is as simple as it is electrifying. Are we witnessing a simple plot twist, or the true beginning of the end for the giants who have dominated this sport? Think about it, and then tell me,